Alabama at Birmingham, where he was awarded the Dean's Scholarship and the School of Medicine Departmental Scholarship. Wanting to further his expertise of the care of all age groups, as well as prenatal care, pregnancy-related health, and especially women's health, he attended a top 3 residency program in the United States for family medicine with obstetrics. However, he realized while still in medical school that while conventional medical education is outstanding at disease management and acute care, its understanding and education of health and wellness, nutrition, integrative and alternative therapies, and to a large extent, chronic disease management was definitely lacking. He also attended the Institute for Functional Medicine and obtained a board certification in functional medicine. He has since narrowed his focus specifically to cellular nutrition and detoxification as the first steps in healing chronic disease. With that, please welcome Dr. Zachary Wright.
All right. Thank you for that. I'm so glad to be here. And you can record as long as you want. We'll do a Q&A, and because most of this is going to be a Q&A. I want to leave a lot of room for questions. I just mean, what I meant with that was like, if we're going to talk about COVID vaccines or alternative anything political, let's say that for the second Q&A so that we can, not alienate people. But no, we can, any health related questions, leave a lot of room for Q&A. So I'm really excited to be here. This is something I'm super passionate about. I'm glad that I'm in a room full of people who want to make an impact in this world, obviously, and that's why you're in this room. And I feel so welcome here. I might start coming. So it's great, and thank you for your time and your attention. I just want to start off by giving a little bit of background into how I got into this world. I'm not going to drone on about my story, but I want you to understand where I came from, because I think it's relevant. Telling that story is going to help you understand where we've come from as far as conventional medicine and where medicine is moving to in the future as well. And then I want to talk about sort of what we can do about it now. And I want to explain some sort of frameworks that I use that are very simple, that they can help you have a really accurate lens to look at things through, anything related to health. I really want you to come out of this with, you hear a lot of things on the internet, you hear a lot of things wherever in the world, and you go talk to your doctors and you hear all this stuff and you don't know what to believe. And so I don't want to argue about any individual things, but I want you to have an understanding of what real health is so that you can decide what you want to do with your bodies. I mean, our spirit, our soul interfaces with this physical world, and it does that through our physical body. And that's why it's so important. If you don't have a healthy body, you don't have the ability to make the impact that you want to have, to love people that you love as well as you want to love them, to have energy to do anything. If your body can't even produce enough energy to do what you want to do, if something physical is hindering you, then you know how that feels when you can't do what you want to do. So I want to equip this room as much as possible with the tools, the understandings, the frameworks, whatever you take from this, so that you can make the impact that you want to have. So I was in medical school. I was in the military before. I went to medical school because I love medicine and I loved helping people and I wanted to, do medicine. But second year medical school, so I was doing my thing. I'm just studying and I'm trying to pass tests, and I'm starting to have wrist pain. And I thought maybe I slept on it wrong. Maybe I'm getting carpal tunnel from looking at the computer too much or whatever. But it just kept getting worse. 6 weeks went by, got worse. Time went by, got worse. And so then it spread to my other wrist, and then it spread to my knees, and I started having pain all the time. I started having brain fog where I couldn't think. I couldn't concentrate as much as I wanted to. I remember getting a D on an anatomy test in medical school, because in medical school, sometimes you have to think these complicated, things where, a person has this disease and that disease, and they're on this medication. You have to actually use your brain. Anatomy is just rote memorization. What is this called? And you write the word down. And I went in that test and I couldn't think of the words, and I got a D, and they're like, what are you not studying? That's the only way you don't get a good score on an anatomy test. And I just couldn't think of words. And I would cry at night because I'm like in medical school failing my tests, and I'm thinking, well, whatever. So it was just a terrible thing. It kept getting worse. Energy got bad. I started gaining weight. My current wife, like I'm gonna divorce her. My wife is my wife for the rest of my life. Was my fiance then. Yeah, right. She was my fiance then, and so I'm looking at all this stuff, and I'm trying to get help from all my professors, and because I didn't have to go to the doctor to I just had all the specialists at this academic center at my disposal at all times. I could just go down the hall and say, hey, Dr. So-and-so, what do you think about this? What do you think about my labs? And they were like top, the program directors and the whatever specialists, and they didn't have any answers. And so I'm studying all this stuff, looking at all the books, looking at all the computer stuff, and looking at all the studies, and there are no answers for what I have. And I remember I told my fiance, look, all that I'm studying this stuff, and all I can see is that if we don't have an answer, this is just going to keep progressing. I have some sort of weird mixed connective tissue disease or something. It's going to keep getting worse. 5 to 10 years from now, I'm going to be in a wheelchair. I'm going to be on methotrexate, other biologics, where I'm not going to be able to have children. Like, you think you're marrying this 30-something-year-old healthy guy, but 10 years from now, it's going to look way different. You're going to be taking care of me until I die, and then you didn't sign up for this. This is not, you shouldn't marry me. I literally try to talk her out of marrying me. Because this progressed over a year and a half. And so I was terrified. And so one day she's in a bookstore where it's like 3 weeks or a month later, and she's in a bookstore, and I say, and then we split ways looking at different stuff. And I went and found her, and we hadn't talked about this since 3 or 4 weeks. And I said, well, what are you looking at when I found her again? And she said, well, if you're going to have this disease, which means that she's been thinking about it without talking about it for the last month, which of course she was, then I'm going to do whatever I can for you. And if that's cook for you, then that's what I'm going to do. And that's my favorite part of the story, by the way, because it's like this, she loved me, it's like, wow, this is awesome. But I was like, what is this? And so it was this anti-inflammatory diet cookbook. And so I was very in love with her, but I was also very skeptical that this was going to work, because I had been through all the specialists for a year and a half, all of the top academic center, the VA and the conventional, like the university system. They didn't have any answers. So I was going to like cure myself with eating some like broccoli. Like, what is this book about? And so I looked at it, skimmed it, and then I started thinking there might be something to this. And so I started looking in the back, and there were actually references to studies. And I said, okay, interesting. So this is this functional medicine book. I went back home, got on the internet, realized there's this whole world out there of alternative things that I wasn't learning and never learned, and was eventually called a quack for learning and talking about. And so I started studying more and more and more. And I found this guy who was actually the dad of one of my classmates, who was now an OB-GYN. But her dad was in functional medicine and was actually on staff at our school, just randomly. And so I went to see him. I said, I'm interested in this. This is what happened to me. This is what I'm going through. And so he started mentoring me, and he would let me shadow him or follow him throughout seeing these patients that came into his office. And story after story after story was, I went through the conventional system. I had all these diseases, and I couldn't function, or I had this or that. And my son, this was one story. My son was 17 years old. He was depressed and suicidal in the basement. He lives in my basement. He just won't do anything. All these sorts of crazy stories. I found Dr. McMinn, and he helped me change my diet, these supplements, detox, whatever. Did all these things for me, and now I've got my life back, and they would just fall one after the other after the other. And he showed me what to do, and I healed myself after a year and a half of being terrified and telling my wife that she shouldn't marry me. 6 weeks after that, I was I was way 80 to 90% better and on the way to full recovery after a year and a half. And so I said, well, this is what I'm doing with my life, obviously. And so teach me? Like, what should I do? And so he just like pointed to this wall that had all these books that were there's no education for this. You have to just read all these books that other functional integrative medicine doctors had written, and look at the studies yourself and study the stuff yourself. So I did, and I'm going to make this a little shorter because I'm running out of time already. I want to get up to a bunch of questions. I studied this stuff, went to a bunch of different practitioners, asked them, what do you know that I don't know? What naturopaths, what do you know that I don't know? Chiropractors, what do you know that I don't know? And they just kept teaching me this stuff. And I started consolidating all this information and read all these books, and eventually went to IFM training. And I learned all this stuff, and I went back to medical school. I went to IFM training after this. But I went back to medical school, and I'm starting to tell people, hey, we're doing this wrong. This is not all there is to it. And I got in trouble, and I got sent to the principal's office of medical school. And they weren't inappropriate, but they basically said, hey, we're training for disease care. We're training specialists here for people that are very, very sick, and you have to learn this curriculum first. I love what you're doing, but you can't distract everyone from this job that we're training them to do. Fair enough. And so I stopped, but I started learning this stuff when everyone else was doing all these different rotations. I would go to like the chiropractor's office, and I was like, "What are you learning at chiropractor?" A lot of cool stuff, actually. So I did that, and then I just kept going from there. And so I went to IFM training when I was in residency, and so I was in this very interesting position of being knowledgeable about functional integrative medicine, and these terms may mean some things to some of you and nothing to somebody else, but basically it's stuff that's outside the conventional system that insurance companies pay for. The whole hospital, insurance company, pharmaceutical drug company situation. Outside of that is functional integrative, whatever, holistic, whatever you want to call it, medicine. And so I started doing that, and I was in this position where I had this knowledge, but I was still in the conventional system trying to treat people and billing insurance for it and seeing them in 15 minutes. And so it was extremely frustrating, but it was also extremely eye-opening and extremely good for my development as a practitioner, doctor, because I was able to see what I was able to do inside that system and how even small changes to these things can get people off medications. I was also able to help my colleagues learn some of these things as they were seeing me do it and seeing my patient panel over 6 months, a year, getting people off of all these drugs when we'll get into this a little bit. That's completely foreign to them and how they think, to get someone off of medication for the vast majority of them. So they're seeing this and like, you're actually healing people. And it's like, well, their body's healing. I'm gonna support, as you support people's bodies healing themselves, the drugs can come off. The drugs are just painting over a rust spot, So that's what I started doing. And then, so that's basically my story. And then I just started having a practice, and I started learning about things. And I started doing, and this gets into a little bit of the stuff, and I can maybe draw if it matters, but you can just, I'll just sort of explain these things. And these are some concepts I want you to understand. So when I started this, I realized that there were two main buckets that all diseases fit into. There's a gut health bucket where you have like symptoms. So nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, gas, bloating. When you eat foods, you feel the garbling or whatever. It just feels like your gut is off a little bit. That actually is really connected to a lot of other diseases. You may have seen, gut health is this and that. Gut health really is related to a lot of things, because if you think about it, your body if you think about a donut, right? And you elongate the donut, you think about the donut hole being, it's not actually the donut. It's just inside. It's just like inside the donut, but it's actually not the donut itself. That's how you can think about your intestines. It goes all the way through. So inside your gut is actually outside your body, right? So that's the biggest interface that we have between the external world and our actual physical body. Nothing can get into our bodies unless they're absorbed through your gut or through your skin, or you breathe them in. Those are the only ways that they can be absorbed. And so that gut health makes sense that 80% of your immune system lives there. 90 to 95% of your serotonin is produced in your gut, right? Because it's something that's interfacing with the outside environment. So if you heal that, it can decrease the inflammation in your body by a long shot, if not completely resolve it. It can then not only that, but so with the inflammation thing, that's where autoimmune diseases come from, by the way. There's this thought with conventional medicine that autoimmune diseases cannot be cured. You have them, they're genetic, you can't do anything about them. It's not true, 100% not true. Autoimmune diseases are an active disease process that's going on in your body. So they can be cured. And I'll get into this in just a second when I talk about cellular health. Also, your gut health is related to hormone production, because you have bacteria that live in there, little bugs that live in there, and they do stuff. They're not just there for no reason. They do stuff. They break down your food, but they also have metabolites when they do their thing that send signals to your brain, send signals to your body, create different hormones, create whatever. Lots of different things that's technical, and if someone wants to know about that, we can talk about that later, but it does stuff. So you have those two main functions of your gut. The barrier that keeps bad stuff out and lets good stuff in, and the microbiome, the bacteria that live in there that do stuff. And then there's another health bucket, which is metabolic health. And this is 8 to 9 out of the 10 things that cause most people to die are related to blood sugar things. This is things like, and cholesterol. These are all connected, liver health and all that. These are things like insulin resistance, which is pre-diabetes and type 2 diabetes. This is cholesterol, liver stuff, which leads to heart attacks. Atherosclerotic disease, it's called, which is where your arteries are hard and you have stuff and plaque built up in them. Right? You've got strokes that come from that same process. Anything that where your body, your bloodstream is clogged off and something happens because of this process, that is related to that. And so dementia is now being called Alzheimer's. So it's another whole situation, but they don't know how to classify dementia still, the Alzheimer's. And so whatever, but a lot of dementia is called type 3 diabetes now because it's small arteries, right? And so if those get clogged off in your brain, that's what happens. So all these diseases, and 8 to 9 out of the 10 top, I think it's 9 out of the 10 top. Yeah, right. That's the thing. 9 out of the top 10 diseases that cause mortality actually, in the United States and similar countries are caused directly by or exacerbated, worsened by blood sugar issues. And the only reason it's not 10 out of 10 is because one of those is accidental trauma. So 9 out of the 9 ones that aren't trauma are related to that. So I started practicing that way. Gut health, metabolic health. I was still missing stuff. I was still not able to get everyone all the way healthy. And that made me frustrated. So something's going on because I know how the body works now, and I know this thing, which is the cellular health issue. And I'll talk about that in a second. But I was missing, so I went back to the naturopaths, I went back to the chiropractors, and went back to Ayurveda medicine and traditional Chinese medicine and nutritionists, and I asked them, what are you doing that I'm not doing still? And it was toxins and parasites. Parasites are a real thing. We all have them. They're everywhere. Every other country cleanses, not every other country, most other countries will cleanse their bodies of parasites periodically. This is something that I get called a quack for, to no end by conventional doctors, by the way. So, but no, because I don't care, because it's true. Parasites are everywhere. We know our kids get pinworms all the time. You can buy Pinex at the grocery store. If you look at your dogs and cats have parasites coming all the time, but we are so clean, us American humans, that we don't have parasites or whatever, right? We do. But you have a healthy immune system that lives in your gut can get rid of those things. You can also cleanse them with different herbs and different supplements and drugs. You can take ivermectin, and so the I word. You take ivermectin. You can take you can take
We can edit all this out.
Yeah, exactly. So
Word.
you can do all that.
It's a good drug.
It is a good drug. I know. Thunder being recorded. You know. That's a great thing. For parasites only.
Yeah.
All right. So, anyways, but you get the point, right? And so you can get rid of those. The other thing, though, and I'm going to talk about that in a big way in just a second, is toxins. And toxins is an umbrella term, and this can get in this room. I'm going to go all the way into it. But toxins this is an evil world, right? Does anybody disagree with that? We live in a fallen evil world, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's against us, and we have a spirit in us that is fighting that off. Toxins are a part of that. It's mold toxins in the air, plastics, heavy metals are everywhere. Now we're spraying it on ourselves with trying to monocrop our food, and we have glyphosate everywhere. We could go into this. You know that's happened. There are some challenging ones to understand that we're spraying ourselves with individually. And a lot of those have to do with fragrance, which we'll talk about in a second too. I know lots of people love fragrance and are addicted to fragrance, but it's something you have to know. There are toxins that are disrupting our hormones and disrupting our actual physiology in our environment. And so we have to intentionally fight that off. This is a battle while we're here on this planet, and it's against us. And so we have to think about it that way and realize that we live in a world that is not set up to make us healthy. It's set up it's fallen, and it's just like everything else and every other sin. It's supposed to be a good thing, but sometimes we warp it, and that's what we've done with our food, and that's what we've done with our health. And so, in the same way that we do with other, we want to get to that. We get to that way, but you get the point, right? We have to think about it from this lens because the world is out to get us. So I want to explain how I think through health, and It's a very, very simple framework, but it took like a decade of learning everything to just put it together and know that it's real. And it's where I plant my flag. It's the cornerstone of everything I do. It's so simple, but we can branch out and talk about anything that you guys want to talk about. If we think about the way that conventional medicine works, I learned this. Okay, I'm board certified in this, so this is how it works. You go and you talk to somebody for 10 or 15 minutes, and you've all experienced this. You go and talk to someone for 15 minutes, and you try to figure out which symptoms they have that you can then connect to call it a disease. And then for that disease, we have a treatment for it. And I'm not doctor bashing, okay? There's a reason that they do it this way. It's because doctors want to do things that are evidence-based. They want to have a lot of good data, a lot of good research to support what they're doing. That's a noble thing. They want to do no harm. That means they don't want to do anything that's going to cause you harm. They want to be very sure that what they're doing and impact, that's intervening in your life is going to be good and not bad. That's a very noble thing. What it means, though, because of the way we've set up how we do studies, is that you have to have large studies to get this good data. Well, who is incentivized to do a large study and spend millions and millions and millions of dollars on studies? The people that are going to make a lot of money if they find an intervention that works, like a drug company. The drug companies are the only huge entities that can afford to spend that much money to get us good data. So all the good data we have suggests that pharmaceutical drugs work because they're incentivized to do that. We don't have good data that nutrition can work, that there are good parasite cleanses, that we can do even more effective hormone replacement therapy with actual bioidentical hormones than we can do with other kinds of hormones that are patentable because they're a fake molecule that we've made up. There's no financial incentive to do anything natural because no one makes money off of it. So that actually does mean we have less data. We have very bad data on it. So doctors are hesitant to do that. It makes sense. It's just sad that that's how it is. So don't hate your doctor. First of all, that's their philosophy. But second of all, they have to work for pharmaceutical companies and insurance companies. They have to work for insurance companies because unless you want to pay out of pocket for everything, they have to play by those rules. And they have those rules in place that they have to follow. So when you go to your doctor, I don't want you to be mad at them. I'm just telling you their philosophy and their hands are tied behind. They hate their job, by the way. They hate it. They have to see 25 people a day. They actually do care about people. That's why they became doctors. And they're stuck in this. Lots of them have a lot of debt. They have patients that rely on them. Who's going to help these people if I don't? Because their panels are full. They're good people. I promise. I know hundreds of them. And they're amazing people. But it still remains that philosophy that they have and the system that they have is not all you can do to affect your health. So that philosophy includes what drug do we have? What data do we have to heal this? And that's usually a drug. And so they give you a drug, and all the drug does is it moves it just paints over a rough spot, literally. The actual disease process, whatever's going on in your body that's causing these symptoms is not changed at all. It's just they're knocking it back towards center while the rest is just continuing to fester in your body. That's their philosophy. And that's what you're buying into if that's all you're going to do to affect your health. And I'm going to give you the framework of intervention. Don't let me forget this because you wanted me to talk about this. The spectrum of intervention, like what can you possibly do to change your health? That's what you're playing into if you're just doing the drug stuff. You can do other things and actually heal your body. So the framework that I want to talk about is cellular health. And it's cellular because if you drill down to, if you want to heal your body, if you drill down to like what's the most basic functional unit of life? We all learned this in high school or elementary school. It's a cell. We know this. Everything in our body is made of cells. If you go smaller than that, it gets to organelles and they can't function on their own. The smallest thing that actually can live is a cell. That's where the magic is. In this room, we can just say that's where the miracle of life is. This is where the God-given miracle of life is inside the cell. The cells self-replicate. They do it on their own. They self-replicate. They self-heal. They talk to each other on their own without us being conscious of it. That's where it is. If they're and they want to heal themselves. They're desperately trying to heal themselves all the time. If they're not able to do that, one or two or both, one of two things or both is happening. Very simply, they're not getting what they need to be able to do it, or something is in there keeping them from doing it. Can't get more simple than that. Okay? So if we give the cells what they need and we remove things that are keeping them from healing, hear me, every active disease process will stop. Not cirrhosis, that's scar tissue. Not if you have type 1 diabetes and your pancreas can't produce insulin anymore. But anything that's active in your body, causing inflammation, getting worse, any autoimmune disease, atherosclerotic disease, any hormone imbalance at all, whether it's cortisol or thyroid or insulin or sex hormones, estrogen, progesterone, testosterone, it will cease completely if we can give the cells what they need to be able to thrive 100% of the time. The question is, how do we do that? To get the cells what they need, they just need nutrients, vitamins, minerals, and nutrients, water, and oxygen. Water and oxygen come already from your bloodstream, so those are out. How do we get nutrients in? 3 steps. You have to consume them, which means you have to put them in your body. And yes, you can absorb magnesium from your skin if I know someone in here is like that technical, but for most of us, you consume the food, it goes into your gut. That's step 1. Step 2 is it has to go from your gut into your bloodstream to be absorbed. That means you have to have a healthy gut. You have to have, your bile that can help you absorb fat-soluble vitamins. You have to have good communication between your gut and your bloodstream. Once that stuff's in your bloodstream, it has to get in those cells, and that's cellular membrane health. There's a membrane around each cell in your body that's made of a fatty layer. It's called a lipid layer, and it's a fluid layer. And if you can get things in through that layer, and you have healthy cell membranes, all that stuff will go into those cells. That's it. Step number 1 is done. You got the cells, the nutrition that they need to be able to heal. Step number 2 is getting bad stuff that they need to get out. Bad stuff is toxins, which is an umbrella term like I talked about, and metabolic waste products. It's just like cellular poop. They're doing their thing. They have waste that has to come out. There's a channel in your body that gets rid of toxins. It goes from your cells into your lymph system, from your lymph system into your bloodstream, and then from your bloodstream it gets processed either by your liver or your kidneys. Whether it's fat soluble, it gets processed by your liver, it goes to your bile and to your stool and out. This is why being constipated is such a big deal. It makes you way more toxic. You're supposed to have a bowel movement. I'm not talking about bowel movements, but this is true. You're supposed to have a bowel movement at least once a day. If you're not having a bowel movement at least once, let's say you're having a bowel movement every other day, you're now doubling the toxic burden on your body because it can't get out. Doubling it just by having a bowel movement half as frequently, right? So when I work with people, I want them to have at least a bowel movement every day, ideally 2 bowel movements a day because we're detoxifying. So that's that system, and then your kidneys will get rid of the water-soluble toxins by just peeing them out. That's simple. You can also get rid of toxins through sweating, which is what saunas are, and by breathing them out too. But those are secondary pathways. You shouldn't actually have to do that. In a super healthy, in a perfectly optimally healthy person, kidneys and stool are, urine and stool are the 2 ways that you would get rid of all your toxins. If you do those 2 things, so how do we do that? So there are different ways to open up those different channels. Make sure you're having bowel movements every day. You can do different things with, and we can talk about this technical stuff if you have questions. But making sure that you're having bowel movements every day. Make sure your liver is clean. You're supporting your liver. Making sure your lymph system is flowing well. You can even do simple things as such a simple thing as moving around every day, or getting on the floor and putting your legs up and just moving your lymph. It's a system that you just move your body around. That's why movement's so important. Movement is huge, not just for exercise, but for just making things flow around. And then supporting little things on more of a cellular level. You can also, this is where you want to work with somebody who, I'm going to give you guys a lot of things you can do at home for free or for very cheap that you can do on your own. If you want to do, you can go way deeper with this and do binders and actually try to actively pull toxins out of your bloodstream. And that's what I do with people in my program. It's expensive. It's thousands of dollars. But it's what you can do that. But you can also just do a lot of the stuff on your own, right? So Another thing you can do after you're supporting the systems is reduce the amount of toxins that are coming into your life from the environment. Because if you're spraying yourself with toxins, you're eating toxins, you're breathing toxins, well, you're never going to turn the corner, because if your body's clogged up and you're just keep pouring stuff in, it's just going to keep taking those toxins and sequestering them or hiding them out in fat cells, which obviously is also one reason that you have difficulty losing weight when you're really toxic, by the way. Because as soon as you start losing weight, that stuff gets back released into your bloodstream, which causes inflammation, which makes your body want to put the weight back on. So that's a revolving door. So that's weight loss resistance. And one reason for weight loss resistance, right? So you can reduce the toxins that are coming into your life. And there are 6 categories. I don't know if I can remember all of them, but we can talk about some of those. But that's sort of that framework. And if you do that stuff, guys, all of your diseases will stop. It's the biggest conspiracy theory out there that we don't actually need drugs. You just don't. But you do need drugs if no one's going to change anything. That's what I need you all to hear. This is a huge lifestyle change. It's a huge waking up and realizing that if you go to Publix, most of that junk in there is toxic. And you may have been doing this stuff for decades. This is an evil world, and you live in it, and you're in a toxic soup, and you are a rat in a maze that is controlled by pharmaceutical companies, the food industry, the insurance companies of different flavors, the government. I don't want to get political. We can get political in the last part, but it's a great room, and I don't know how you can be against America being healthy again. We'll just leave it at that. Right. But the point is, we got to wake up. We got to wake up. I'm tired of going to church and praying for everybody's health. It looks exactly the same as the world. Why? And so I could get really, really passionate about this, but what I need you to hear is this is a perfect segue into what can I do? What is the spectrum of intervention? What can I possibly do to affect my health? There's a spectrum of it. It's the last thing I'll talk about, and then we'll just open it up for questions, and we can just riff back and forth. Unless you want me to go over anything else. Okay. So the things that we can do to affect our health on one end of the spectrum are nothing, which is cells healing themselves, tincture of time, whatever you want to call it. Right? We're not doing anything. We're just nothing. One step up from that is lifestyle changes. Stop smoking whatever you're smoking. Stop drinking as much alcohol, because look, everybody likes alcohol. I love every type of alcohol and different kinds of it. I get it, but it's a toxin. It's a neurotoxin. It's a desiccant, which means it dries out your cells. And I never drink alcohol because it's a toxin, and it's not good for me. And it's going to make me enjoy my grandkids less, and it's going to make me maybe be dead when my great grandkids are here. And I see that, and I'm 40, and I know that's coming. So why would I drink alcohol? I think I still feel better right now. If you want to, yes, I drink some every now and then, but that's where you start, right? And it's if there's a special occasion or something, or my friend invited me over to his house and he had a $500 bottle of scotch, and I had a drink of it, yes, but you get it, right? Or if I go to France, I'm gonna have some. I've never been to France, but I'll have a glass of wine or something. But you know what I'm saying. But don't. I used to drink beer every night by myself, 1 or 2 beers or 3 if I felt like it, every single night. Why? That's the big deal. It's not the glass of scotch every night. I actually like bourbon a lot better than scotch.
This is a safe space.
Yeah. So anyways, that's lifestyle changes, right? Sleep better. Worry about sleep. Set a bedtime alarm, and go to bed. Stop scrolling your stupid phone, and just, gosh, right? I'm talking to myself. Last night, stop scrolling your stupid phone. I've got a 3-week-old at home, so I just walking around so my wife can sleep, and I'm on my phone. It's what are you doing? So don't do that, right? Sleep. Don't have a 3-week-old. And do stuff like that, right? The next step up from that is supplements. And supplements come in sort of 2 flavors. You can actually supplement your diet with things that you're not getting from your diet that you should be getting, because our soils are nutrient void and all that stuff now. And then there are other types of supplements where they're supra dietary, we'll call it, where you would never get that amount in a diet, but you're taking some dose for some effect, a higher dose for some effect. One step up from that are therapies. So this could be cognitive behavioral therapy or physical therapy or chiropractic, whatever. And chiropractic, they use it as a noun, but chiropractic sounds like an adjective, so I always give them a hard time about it. I'm a doctor of chiropractic. You just like chiropractic. You're a chiropractor. Okay, fine. Fair. And so, yeah, chiropractic medicine, but they don't say that. Like have a noun. So, anyway, and so any therapy, right? After that, it comes to drugs. If you're not going to do any of that stuff, and you're going to live in this world, then you will take a drug or you're going to die. And so that's your choice. Now, I'm not saying that if you have cancer, you shouldn't take it. You get the point. Like there are drugs that have a good purpose, and I'm glad for conventional medicine. But if you don't have familial hypercholesterolemia and you have high cholesterol, why do you have high cholesterol? Right? We can fix that. And so why no one should ever have type 2 diabetes. 0 people should ever have type 2 diabetes. 0. It's a completely preventable disease. And completely reversible disease, by the way. It's not just preventable, it's completely reversible if you haven't gotten so bad that you've messed your pancreas up. No one should ever have it. Like so many people have that. And the list goes on. And then after that, you're going to have surgeries. That's the other extreme. Surgeries. And that's least invasive to most invasive. Most healthy to least healthy. That's all you can do. Everything you can do to affect your health is in that spectrum. So I hope that's helpful. I want to have those. And so every time you hear of an intervention online, it will fit into that spectrum. Every time you hear about a disease process, think about which bucket it fits into. If you have one of these, and I know lots of people in here have issues and are on medications or and are on supplements or not. If you want to fix that, you can. If it's an active process, if you have antibodies in your bloodstream that aren't great, if your cholesterol is off and if your blood sugar is off, it will go away. That's a very crazy thing to say if it wasn't true, but it is true. I'm not Dr. House. I'm not the only one doing this. I'm not like some guy that just knows all this. I'm so brilliant. There are plenty of people that know this stuff that I know, but it's not your conventional doctor, and it's getting more popular, but it's hard to find, and it's still suppressed. Forget it. I'm just trying to think. This being recorded thing is getting on my nerves. Mark Zuckerberg's wife. Does anyone know what her job is? What she does? Mark Zuckerberg.
His wife.
Yeah, you know what her job is? Physician. Yeah, she's a doctor. She's a physician. Her surprise is she suppresses that Facebook suppresses medical stuff. That's alternative. It's very yeah. So, anyway, that's enough to get started.